Now we're going to jump into the second chapter, and this chapter is called Prison, Captured, Not Conquered. And this, once again, in every chapter in the book, starts off with a definition out of the dictionary. Prison is defined as a place where a person convicted or accused of crimes are confined, a penitentiary or a jail. 2, a place or condition of confinement or of forcible restraint. So prison doesn't always got to be with bars or in a building. You know, we could be out in this free world and be prisoners to a whole lot. And I think a lot of people are blind or asleep to the fact that they are prisoners to themselves and their own ignorance, with a lot of beliefs that we've taken in childhood days and ultimately carried into our adult lives. Instead of shedding those childish ways, once again, you know, we just kept building and building and building and stacking on them, and here we are, we're 40 years old. And that's me. Here I am turning 40 in January of this coming year. And, you know, it's taken me a long time to get to where I'm at right here. And, you know, once again, just being in prison, I was free. I was probably at one of my freest points in life when I knew I was going home, right? Like, you know, I had timed myself to do all these and prepare. And I had a fresh slate, brand new start, new energy, everything, fresh, healthy. You know what I mean? Stayed on my square while I was in there. And, you know, once again, that's why I put the definition of prison in there. And it goes further on to say that a brief understanding for a huge world within the world, a world of misery, frustration, regrets, blame, hate, fakes, liars, poker players, gang members, men with nothing to lose. And, you know, once again, it's a huge world it's a world of its own within this big world of ours, because all these institutions are just concrete worlds. You know, they hold thousands of people, and their screams, their complaints, their cries are quiet to this world at large. Nobody cares about somebody that's in jail or prison. You are at the bottom of the totem pole. And this is a world of its own, though. You got to keep in mind, 24 hours, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, you got family visits. You got, man, life goes on even while you're inside this concrete world. And just as the world is comprised of elements of earth, fire, water, and air, prison is comprised of those elements that are trapped souls every waking reality. And that's what you are. You're a trapped soul while you're in prison. From when someone opens their eyes in prison, even chasing him in a dreamland, like you can never get away that from prison, even when you go to sleep, because even when you sleep, you got to be on guard, you got to be aware. You're going to hear the doors opening, closing. You're going to hear the intercoms going off. You know, there really is no peace. There really is no quiet. There really is none of that. You can never get away from it in prison, ever, 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 ever. But that's why it says, from when he opens his eyes, even chasing him into dreamland, prison is a place where a man is alive, but life as he knew it is put on freeze. You merely exist more than living. You are trapped between concrete and a hard place, literally. That's really what you're doing, is existing. If you're not structuring your day-to-day life right, you're merely existing. Are you really living? You know, like, living is a word that we need to define as well, because ultimately a lot of us are just standing still and floating, and that's what prison will have you do, and that's what it's meant to do, is have you just sitting there exist. Your reality is like a DVD put on pause. Your only hope of hitting play being years out of reach. For me, in the year of 2003, my first chance of hoping to get out was 9 years later. 9 years was the first, what they call a PED, my parole eligibility date. So I had 9 years to do before I had any option of getting a chance to even be heard to go home. For 9 years, I knew nothing was moving but just me, from facility to facility, no home, just a cell, a bunk, with a cellmate to call my home. And keep in mind, like, you getting celled up with somebody that you don't know. Maybe you get celled up with a partner of yours down the road, but you've always got another man in the room that you share as a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen, and a study, if you want to go ahead and call it that. You know, and I knew for 9 years, you know, ain't nothing happening. For me, as a 21-year-old child, adjusting to prison was confrontational. On the streets, I made my own rules, set my own times, chose when I hung out and kicked it, decided what to eat, had the hand of power in my relationship. But all that changed when I went to prison, when I was incarcerated. Now I had to be housed with men old enough to be my dad and telling me that I left piss on the sink that we call our toilet that we use while we're in the cell together, you know, sink that we fill our cups up with water that we shave in, you know. I now had an old man telling me, hey, youngster, you left piss on the toilet, you need to clean that up. And I'm like, who is you? Ultimately, though, this is the reality of what you have when you get to prison, and there was no escaping that. Every single minute of the day, someone else is right there with you, or right outside your door, unless uh, one went to the hole. And if you went to the hole, you got your own single cell, but you still got the loud, noisy environment, the keys jingling, the CO, and you know, even if you get some cell time and put something up on your door, your window, and you in the cell by yourself, like that's about the closest you're ever gonna get because, and that's short lived. That's only for using the bathroom and doing whatever else you be doing in there. But someone's right outside the door, a whole bunch of people, you know what I mean? And there's no peace. It ain't like how I'm recording this right here. I mean, this is peaceful, right? This is me and my dogs in here, and we quiet, peaceful, peace of mind. Never could get that in prison, but you know that's the reality of that. 3 meals a day in the chow hall. You're forced to get in where you fit in. Weirdos, sex offender, punks, all is one. Whites, Mexican, blacks, always in a box and packed tightly together. You know, the food servings in the chow hall are the size of preschool meals, and they're the lowest grade quality of everything. I mean, they used to call the meat squeegee meat because it's all the stuff they had to squeegee off the floor, you know, in the butcheries or wherever they kill these animals or wherever the meat comes from. They squeegee it all together and they ground it up and they feed it to you. Phone calls and requests to my girl on her time and her rules. No longer am I a factor to her, but a distant thought and a liability. You know, there's no way for me to be a boyfriend, husband, you know, partner of anything while I'm incarcerated. You know, I'm a liability now. Now I need some money. You need to put some money on the phone. I need canteen. You know, we got visits. We need to show up at this time, and you got to get patted down and made to feel some kind of way. You know, when the lights and the phones go off at 9 p.m., the loneliness really kicks in. Only hours later do the doors open and slam open, you know, bright and early. You know, early call is usually for laundry, you know, laundry pool. And this begins a whole new day, and it's a whole new process of Groundhog's Day over and over again. You know, a new day brings with it the same actors, the same set, and the same script, and the same losers day in, day out, myself included. It's hard not to recognize the things in others that you don't like, you know, magnifying your inner frustration on their shortcomings, which lead to your looking for any reason to damage them. And that's what you see a lot of times in there. You know, people are very frustrated with their situations, and believe me, they look and they point out the flaws and they looking for the weaknesses, and believe me, they want to do damage control. And once again, they really frustrated with themselves, but how else do they take care of it? How do they vent? That's the way of venting. Prison, a place where negativity is fed upon. It's an incubator for hate, where not giving a fuck is the general mind state, generally accepted, agreed upon, and daily acted upon. Home to a lot of losers. We've hit the rock bottom. That's what you're at. You're at the bottom of the totem pole. If you're in prison, you've lost. That's why they ask you, when did you fall? What year did you fall? Yeah, you fell from grace. You're at the bottom. And in a world where society considers right gets flipped upon its head and everything is the exact opposite and the laws of the jungle apply. If you don't defend yourself, you're prey. Not prone to violence, you may be violated. You ain't gangbanging, you ain't connected, perfect. Let me holler at you. I got something for you. You either get played as a mark, crash dummy, or loner, depending on where your levels of understanding start and end. And basically what I'm saying there by saying if you ain't connected or in a gang or anything like that, believe me, yeah, you're gonna be prey because once again they gonna be looking. But ultimately, to where your levels of understanding are, you might be able to just pull it off and just be solo dolo and do your thing if you really, you're not a prey type individual. But the game is always being run. There is a motive behind every action in prison, and when I say game, I mean an action is put in play in order to achieve a desired result. And the game spans far and wide, from something as simple as uh, keeping a con going to help you pass the time, all the way up to getting close to you just to steal your wife's address. And in prison, you got your family pictures out, you got anything like that, it might be better to tuck those because the person you're living with, you never know what kind of creep he may be. He might be getting off to your family's pictures while you go to the chow hall or you at the library. He might be sifting through your mail trying to find, your girl's number or somebody that he can reach out to. And I've seen it happen before, and it's a con game. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And I've always related prison to high school. You've got so many actors playing roles to fit in and blend in and just to hang around and make sure they're safe and sound. Crafty in their disguises, they could take their acts to Hollywood and maybe even win an Emmy. Nonetheless, they fool many, but they get recognized by the truths. If you ain't laced tightly, you'll end up getting played. Prison is a world where most are cut off from the world and live on a nickel. A shot of coffee is nothing to you or me, but to someone who has no money coming in, a shot of coffee is a reason to befriend you and milk you until the well runs dry. Real shit. Man, a person will sit there and have a full 5, 10, 20-minute conversation with you just to ask for a shot of coffee, just to ask for a soup, and these are what I call microwave conversations. You know what I mean? Like you go to the microwave to heat up your food, and here come this person. They see you. You got beans, you got cheese, or their nose and scented, smelt that as soon as you walked out the door. They gonna come up with you and they gonna run their game on you. They gonna just conversate and they gonna look for the opening to ask, "Hey, bro, you think you got another soup? Can I get one?" And I ain't never been a person to turn somebody down on like that, but it rubbed me the wrong way that someone would play you as a mark to think that you don't recognize that, because that's they hustle, and that is a hustle. And further goes on to say, in prison you're forced to be housed with X amount of people. A cell house may have 3 pods of 120 people with 6 cell houses on the compound. So 3 pods, each pod got 120 people, and there's 6 cell houses. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people you go to the chow hall with. That's a lot of people you go to the rec yards with. It's a lot of people that's just in the facility, point blank, period. And all this can fall on your points and where you are, your custody level, and things of that nature. But breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you are forced to see these characters no matter what. Same goes for education, pool, library, gym, yard, medical. You can't escape them. Everywhere you go, these motherfuckers is there. You don't like this person. On Instagram you block them, right? You don't like this person, you don't go around them. And there, man, you about to be around them 24/7. Don't like the shit they be on. Shit, you about to be there. You either gonna step on them motherfuckers and apply some pressure, or you gonna motherfucking deal with them and tolerate them. By cause of a crime, you are now neighbors sharing microwave and showers. So you're no better than the sex offender, because that sex offender more likely getting in that same shower unless they ran him out the cell house. You know what I mean? Like you could be up in there with somebody that never had their paperwork checked. He's been sliding facility for facility under the radar. You still sharing the same showers, same shower we all sharing. Everybody going in the shower, sharing, jacking off, shaving. We all sharing these. Everybody's sharing the same microwave to cook their food. The sociology books say one becomes normalized to their environment, so superficial friendships grow. Prison is where the blind lead the blind even further into darkness. Groups of aimless, brainless time bombs appear. Ignorance feeds the ignorance. A good convo is hard to find as a needle in a haystack. Don't get me wrong, like you could find something to bullshit about all day for hours on air. But, once again, a good edifying, conversation. I think it's still kind of hard to find even out here in the free world, but you got more mediums to go straight to the sources of places that are, of people of like mind. But man, believe me, there's some great people in prison, and there's some great conversations to be had, but they ain't going on 24/7. Believe me, people are trying to pass time, and now and then you may just stumble upon one and hit the jackpot. But unless you're blessed with good company, your only source of substance and brain stimulus is going to come in the form of a book out the library. Sitting in the day room, all you get is football and grumpy complaints and sounds of misery. That is the realest shit ever. When you sit in that day room, when you get your hour out or whenever you come out, like everybody's betting tickets, playing sports, football, baseball. All you do is hear people complaining about the COs and why we got shorted for yard time and this, that, and the third, and sounds of misery. When I say sounds of misery, them sounds of misery are people yelling, screaming, making noises, singing, yelling, whatever you think, animalistic behavior. And, but when you're in a cell 21, 20, or even 14 hours of a day, you don't mind. You want to get out there and turn into an animal yourself, and them doors pop open. And just the movement of getting out of that box of a cell and allowing your senses to perceive some depth rather than the feeling of 6x10 concrete limitations is pure solace in the simplest of senses. At home, just walking in and walking out is a given, right? You can just come and go out you want. You can go out the back door, you can go out the front door, whenever you want. In prison, that's a huge privilege. I didn't even see the moon for a lot of years because I never had a cell that faced the direction where the moon would be, so I'd never be able to see it. I'd see like the sun, and maybe not even had a spot like I didn't even see myself in a proper mirror for almost 10 years because all the mirrors in there are distorted because they can't let you have nothing in there that can be broken and glass that can be turned into a weapon. So looking at myself through these weird mirrors and all kinds of stuff. But in prison, being able to get out of the cell, get out of the unit, you're going to be in that confined in that pod, that cell house right there for quite a while. And in prison, that is a privilege you have to earn over a long period of time. You have to show good behavior and make it to a camp that allows you to come and go out of your cell as you please. That in itself is a mission and a half with so many variables of your environment working against you, because to get to a camp or get to a better place, right, you can't get no write-ups, you can't have no issues, can't have no problems, and that means you can't have no issues or no problems with either inmates or COs. And you think day to day you're gonna have issues with COs and inmates and all kinds of shit. I mean, all these men together, how you expect all these people to get along and work alongside one another? But you have so many variables of your environment working against you. You have frustration raging in many shapes, sizes, and colors at every glance You have frustration raging in many shapes, sizes, and colors at every glance, which can ignite at any moment. You have mouthy, sadistic officers trying to provoke and disrupt your cool, looking to turn you into a story to tell to how they pepper sprayed you and put their knee in your neck and you begged for God's help. That's real deal. These officers come there with something to prove. They feel like inmates are so much less underneath them, so it's like their job to come there and make your life even worse. And they've got power. They got this power complex. They give you your mail. They tell you when you go to chow and the doors open. They got a God complex, and they want to pepper spray you. They want to put you in oil. They looking for you to get out of line. You get out of line, they're gonna do that. And these two alone are hurdles that only a pro can maneuver. Snakes are in the grass and you have to keep a stride right past them without getting bit. A hard task for somebody new, as their fear seems to send the attack signal sent. You have to stay prayed up and keep that hedge of protection around you at all times. And I pray every day. I'll be off my prayers now, but man, I stay prayed up in prison from sun up to sundown. God, let me see another day, get me home safe, and watch over my mother. In Jesus' name I pray. In prison, in jail, so many men find God in the hours of worry when time has to be on your side. So many promises get made in the name of the Most High. some kept, some broken, and some going back and forth on. Without faith in a brighter day and things on one side, what is a man left with, right? What is a man left with if he got no faith for the future? You feel me? A shell of a man, that's what's left. An empty and a bomb ready to blow. Faith is necessary for doing time. The more you feel you're in the best grace with the Most High, the more you feel you will get the blessings of freedom sooner rather than later. No one wants to have the variable of God being against them, inhibiting and holding back their freedom. But as a man's heart aligns with the divine, the more peace begins to manifest in his atmosphere. The trying of a man's faith produces patience, and patience produces perfection. So this is the greatest way of transformation of a redefined man. Through the hottest flame, gold is made purified, and the same goes for man, right? The greater the affliction, the greater and resilient a faithful man gets, right? On the streets, reading the Bible, the Quran, or any of the books of wisdom traditions is a lengthy process. Like, who really has time and makes time for that on a regular basis with so many distractions? But in prison, where you're in a room for endless hours, the task becomes very tangible. What would you do in a room for 19 hours? There is no Wi-Fi in the prison. There's no internet, no chat rooms, Facebook, none of that. For 19 hours, what would you do in a room this big, that long? What would you do? You're faced with big blocks of time in that cell. Your only options are reading, writing, drawing, watching TV, and sleeping. You work out, but a shower may be hours away, if not days away. And hopping to bed all sweaty never was my style. I got a bird bath. For me, I read everything. That grabbed my attention. I read everything that was nonfiction. I've never been one to live in a fantasy or be entertained by it. The gangster novels of old repeats or far-fetched stories I never wasted my time with. Now, I may have read a couple of Donald Goins and a few, Iceberg Slim books. Yeah, I did that. But I couldn't constantly feed myself that. I didn't even want to hear the conversations with people that I was locked up with, man. We all got the same stories. You got the same story as I got. I just got a different color caprice. Feel me? But I looked at it as learning, reading all those books, and adding value to my own self-worth. With so much stand around, idle time, the normal answer to what's up in prison is being bored. That's how somebody will answer you. Like, what's up, bro? What you doing? Bored. Dominoes and cards pacify pod time and become life for some. But for me, my 11 years was a university scholarship to increase my understandings to the highest degree. And believe me, man, if it wasn't for cards and poker and dominoes, man, people would probably kill themselves, because that's all they got in there. That's the only thing they do to pass time, and they pass years. And it used to blow my mind how many people would stay on that poker table, blowing their people's money, blowing their girls' money that they know these people out here working hard in the real world for, and you out here gambling this shit away daily. But to each their own, right? With me, with so much of my day limited to being confined, I realized that the choice that I had with my time was mine. The choice to feed my life or to let it wither away to the norm of monotony or the mundane. The choice was to sit in front of my old bubble TV and lust my way away at TV and keep repeating the same old conversations about the same old tired scenarios of shootouts and women. Every action and my clarity to my actions forced me to recognize the need for correction. I couldn't sit in front of that TV. I had a Magnavox in there, a clear 13-inch TV. And, all I do at that thing is lust, looking at these females on BT and, just overall just brainless activity, right? I realized through reading and just logic that, I needed to change some things about me, and right now was the best time to change, so why put it off? In prison, you are forced to look at yourself in the mirror, but as the parable states, Many are called, but the chosen are few. Some adhere and work on themselves, but most deny the need for correction and wait for the next time, hoping it will be a better time. How does one find peace in prison, you may ask? You always have someone who is just a sneeze away. But the craziest thing about is finding that peace in prison. That peace comes when your cellmate gets on their bunk and your mind can set them outside. You know, a song might come on TV that will take you away and have you relive a memory. You know, night will come and you'll throw your blanket over your head and settle your mind, and peace will take you to dreamland. But it only lasts so long, right? A night's sleep in prison is done in increments. It's not the stiffness from the concrete or the metal bunk that's waking you up. It's the third shift flashlight in your eyes forcing you to move, to know that you're alive. You know, they do the wellness checks. They come and hold the flashlight through the window until they see you move, and then they move away from the door. You know, it's like a game they play on the night shift, right? And not out of concern for you, they do that, but out of boredom, you know, and for them because it discomforts you, and it's once again their game. You know, it's the game of how long can they hold it in your face before you move. Many nights I have been awakened to their light and forced myself to lie still just so they would kick my door in frustration. That's how I get back at them, right? I'm petty as shit. They be holding that flashlight. I'm wide awake. I'm underneath that blanket, and I'm just sitting there laughing to myself inside, like, yeah. And they'd kick the door, and I'd move, and they'd finally go. You know what I mean? I don't want to get my celly up and nothing, but you know, you gotta, you know, this type of stuff that goes on in prison, right? And many nights I would do that. I call it my win because I forced their hand. Some would even cuss and open my door. Once again, I won. What was supposed to be discomfort to me backfired on them and now became unsettling for them. So, you know, this is a mental power game, right? Prison is where your family is captured in photos and memories in the mind. For them, life goes on. For you as well, your setting's just filled with monotony. Visit day being uh, Visit day being your day for one. Seated in a lawn chair for 5 to 6 hours, conversation has never been better. You know, you could sit in these chairs, you'd be so happy to finally hold hands and see somebody, you know, talk about something, you know, with your family members. Like, yeah, those 5, 6 hours in that visiting room go a long ways. But, you know, most visiting rooms always tend to be ice cold, as if they deliberately make your family's time with you as comfortable as possible. Nonetheless, 5, 6 hours allow you to reconnect and stay intact. But when the time is up, the reality of your situation of being in prison really snaps back harder than ever. And, you know, when it's time for them to go home and for you to stay, you know, that's the reality you get. You know, when the visit's over with, it's time for them to go home and for you to stay here and go back out there and get strip searched by this officer. And the look in your loved one's eyes never changes. It's the sadness from the heart, hurt because you caused it, distance you put between you both by your actions. As they leave, you remain seated and wait to get stripped out. So you all sitting in these lawn chairs, everybody in there, and then they call you like maybe by twos or threes, and you go in here and you gotta get naked, bend over, spread your ass, have this dude look up your ass, and then put your clothes back on and go back to your unit. And you know, people been doing time so much they act like that stuff's normal, but that stuff never sat well with me. I felt like a broad every time I had that stuff happen. The matter echoes to the men in the room. You know, everybody's sitting there and they're realizing, damn, we stuck here, we still here, thinking about their visit, thinking about their friend, and that echo is loud and long. You know, some louder than others, and soon your name is called and you're handed your ID card and directed around the corner to a pack of COs, and they all got latex gloves on and they're ready to look up your ass. Nothing is more humiliating or belittling than being forced to disrobe in front of another man, yet a group of men, and then made to bend over, separate your nuts from your dick, and then you gotta bend over, grab your ass, spread it, and cough while this man's looking up your ass, you know what I mean? Maybe you got a light out or something. You know, they looking up your ass, and in my 11 years of doing time, you know, I've never became dull to that ever. You know, I've never ever felt like that was normal or comfortable ever. After you're reminded of who's in charge, you're told and allowed to put your clothes back on like a $10 prostitute and then directed to the walkway that leads to the opening of the yard. As the gate creaks open and the horizon turns into men running the yard, lifting weights, walking laps, debating trivial complaints, it's apparent where you're back at. You're back at prison, and that's chapter 2.